Day 3 of Bills training camp in the books here at St. John Fisher University. I'm Jonathan Acosta, joined here by Lindsey Moppert for the first time up here in Pittsburgh.
Woo, woo.
Vic Carucci also up here for the first time this training camp.
Woo, woo.
And guys, we have a lot to talk about. It's a day that we thought was going to start off with, we're going to talk about the offense and how great Josh Allen looked, and we're going to get there in a little bit. But the way that practice ended forces us to talk a little bit about the defense, because the defense certainly had a strong end to this third day of training camp.
Absolutely, Jonathan. The first interception thrown of camp, and it goes back to back to back. We've got 3 straight in a row. I know you, Vic, saw pretty much the first one. It was Taylor Rapp. It kind of pretty much landed right in his hands. What were you seeing on that first one?
Well, I think what I saw was Josh Allen maybe having a tad too much confidence in his ability to throw the deep ball. He should have that confidence. He's great. But I think the moment sort of spoke to be a little more cautious than that. And basically it was a pitch and catch. Pitching by Josh Allen to a defender. That's not what they want to see. But look, Josh has really played as well as you could expect him to play through these first few days of camp. I see no concern over seeing that whatsoever in these practices, but it is one of those realization things that, okay, the offense was hot for a really good stretch and most of the practice on Friday, and then boom, the defense gets in place.
Right, because we saw that interception from Rapp. It was a total of 3 interceptions from Josh Allen, all of them from Josh, in the span of 4 plays. It was Taylor Rapp, Christian Benford, and Kyer Elam. And at least on Elam's part, that's something good to see, especially if you're one of those Bills defensive coaches, a guy that you want to take that step up in year 3, really be that solidified, dependable third cornerback after Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he needs this. I mean, I think Kyer Elam's time with the Bills is on the line in this camp. They've given him every chance as a first-round pick to prove why it was that they made him a first-rounder. This is his camp to do that. So making a play like that 3 days into camp, a good sign for him, but he's got to do much more of that.
Elsewhere in the secondary, the safety position is probably the one that's the biggest one that's up in the air right now. Taylor Rapp seems to sort of solidified himself as one of the starters at one of those safety positions. But next to him, that's been a rotation through these first 3 days. The first day we saw Damar Hamlin. The second day we saw Mike Edwards. And now this third day, the rookie, Cole Bishop, the first one out there with the first team. Vic and Lindsey, just how do you guys assess the state of this safety competition when we take into account comments, for example, talking about from Sean McDermott the first day about how hard it is for a rookie to step in and really make an impact his first year at middle linebacker and safety, and compare that and contrast it to what we've seen here on the field?
I think truly you have to give him a chance, right? I mean, People are maybe being a little surprised to him getting those first team reps today, but at the end of the day, you got to give him a chance. It's training camp. We're not playing a game tomorrow. And Cole Bishop, we heard Bobby Babich talk about him today. Again, it's kind of that thing. We got to take it one step at a time. But you hear Taron Johnson talk about him and how he pretty much just said he's getting more comfortable in that role as well.
Yeah, the only way a rookie is going to learn is to get those reps. And Cole Bishop, remember, smart guy. I mean, coming from a program where he established himself as a player, a thinking man's kind of player, and the Bills like that in him in the scouting report. I think he's going to be a quick study, and I wouldn't be surprised if A, he doesn't start the season as a starter, but B, could become one during the course of the season. And these are the kinds of things that they can glean as coaches. Now, yeah, is he ready to start immediately? The likelihood is no. There's a lot of thought and layers to the safety position. It's a communication spot, and really to own that and to give that confidence to your front, a veteran presence is probably better for that. So that's where I think Mike Edwards, Damar Hamlin are going to have a bit of an edge over him.
Vic, in your experience of covering these sort of position battles in camp, what does it say about how the Bills view that position, that it's been 3 different guys getting those number 1 reps next to Taylor?
Hey, I know neither of you was here in 2017, but in 2017, when Sean McDermott became the head coach, the first thing he did foundationally was build that defense from back to front. Sean's background is that of a defensive backs coach. He, of course, brings in, as free agents, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. They were his first two guys. And by doing so, it made the statement of what Sean McDermott believes is the key, not just to success defensively, but to the entire team. He's applying that now. So his ability to sort of rebuild back there, I have faith in that. There should be faith in that collectively, Sean, with Bobby Babich, with the coaching staff, is going to figure it out and again, do the mixing and matching with Taylor Rapp back there, but find that other piece, and I think they'll know it when they see it.
Rotation likely to probably continue at that position as camp goes along.
And I kind of thought it was interesting, too, today, Bobby Babich talking about, really for the first time, what exactly is he looking for in that safety position battle. And he said, at the end of the day, you want to have that control over the defense. As you said, maybe a veteran presence is a little bit better at this point. But he also said, this is the NFL. You need to make plays. You need to get up there. You need to make plays. And I know, as you guys have seen the last 2 days being here, that Damar Hamlin is making plays.
He's in there, Damar Hamlin, obviously not getting those first team reps this time, but he's someone that we've talked about throughout the spring, throughout the summer, and now here in training camp, that he's just someone who has taken advantage of his opportunities.
And don't you feel, as we watch him, and we've watched the whole saga, right, of him coming back from that cardiac arrest incident, how much it, of course, impacted him and gave him, as he said, a greater purpose in life than to be a football player, create that awareness that he's done, which is phenomenal. But it's back to football now, and he's here, and I think enough time perhaps has gone by since that happened to where, and Bobby Babich talked about this, right, to where he is now really focused on football and on the competition and make this team and in his view, hopefully be a starter.
The word that Babich used, he called him a professional, and you could see in the way he was speaking about how highly he regards Damar Hamlin. Two other guys that were making plays on that defensive side of the ball up front, Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau, certainly made their presence known. Two guys, at least for Ed Oliver's part, the Bills hope he can have the sort of season he had last year, and on Greg Rousseau's part, they hope he can take that next step and step into that upper echelon of pass rushers in this league. Yeah,
and it was actually funny, Bobby Babich, again, it was almost like he was talking about it before it even happened for them to have such a great day today out there. But, he spoke about Ed Oliver and saying that, mentally he has such big goals, as he should, but he said he's really ready to take that next step this season. Same thing with Greg Rousseau. He said, he just is in the right mindset, and you could see that out there on the field today.
Yeah, well, first of all, with Ed Oliver, so much credit to him to get that big contract extension and to deliver on it, as he did for the better part of last season. He wants to build upon that. I think he can, and this team needs him to. This defense needs an impactful guy more than one in the middle of the defense to help things on the outside, because they still don't know where that pass rush consistently is going to come from. And that brings up Greg Rousseau. And the term that Bobby Babich used was that he wants to be the elite of the elite.
Yes, that's what I was trying to remember.
And that's a statement. I mean, that's a real powerful thing for a coach to say about a player. I agree with that. I think this is what the case is with Greg Rousseau. Can he take what has been sort of a ceiling, an incremental improvement, and really push it as high as possible this year? They need him to do so.
It's something that immediately stands out to anyone that sees Greg Rousseau as sort of that frame, that size that he has. On a couple of occasions here in practice, we saw Oliver and Rousseau rushing from the same side, and there was batted balls at the line of scrimmage from Josh Allen's throws. I couldn't tell which one of whether Oliver or Rousseau it was, but they were rushing together from the same side. Yeah. And after both plays, I saw Bobby Babich go up to Greg Rousseau and give him a really strong dap up, like fire. That prototypical Bobby Babich energy, fired up and congratulating him. So that kind of shows you the impact that Oliver and Rousseau were both making out on the field today. Let's switch over to the other side of the ball, the side of the ball that we thought we were going to be talking about first today, because I even jotted it down in my notes. Allen's passes have some zip to it. Allen's very accurate. It just seemed, starting with the very first 7-on-7 drills, that Josh Allen was locked in. The very first throw, nice back shoulder throw to Dalton Kincaid. The very next throw, a touchdown to Keon Coleman where he beats Russell Douglas. For about 75% of this training camp, we saw Josh Allen as dialed in as he has been at any time so far here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and it was funny because, of course, knowing myself, I'm over on the other side watching the defense. At the end, I hear cheers. I'm like, what did I miss? I'm going to have to watch that later, aren't I? And, of course, I was right about that, huh?
Yeah, well, look, Josh Allen comes into this camp. I mean, let's address this, because in the story that Jeremy Fowler did for ESPN, where he's quoting an anonymous personnel guy, whoever this was, but the person, using that term overrated for Josh Allen. And look, the breakdown, and personnel people are entitled to their opinions. Sharing it anonymously when it's negative, of course, is usually the case. But to say that he was overrated would be the part of that I found utterly ridiculous. If anything, he's a guy that you could look at and say, and Brandon Bean pointed this out, maybe he's not given enough credit for the stuff he's been able to do. And yeah, there were knocks on him coming out of college. He is beyond proven that he is a player who is elite at his position, one of the best. And seeing what's happened recently, Tua Tagovailoa, the latest quarterback to get a big extension, guess who's going to be coming into Brandon's office looking for a big payday? And he should, and this team knows that day is coming. And right now, I would say Josh Allen comes into this season looking to be at the top of his game, and given the question marks that are surrounding him at receiver, on the offensive line, overall new offensive coordinator in his first full year, Joe Brady, the man who's got to lift this, be that tide that's lifting all those boats, Josh Allen.
I was going to say, another topic about Josh Allen that has been very big this offseason, just because of all the turnover and the veteran leadership that has left this building and this roster, is just how much more vocal he has become. And I think that kind of goes along with that, is he's just taking another step where you could also kind of put that into saying, maybe he's a little, you could use the word under more than over.
Yeah,
right?
And I don't think, by the way, that he is even affected in the least by that.
Oh, no.
I mean, does he need that for motivation? No. He knows he's got command of this football team. The coaches know it as well. And look, it does require. Mitch Morris leaves this team, one of the great leaders they had offensively. That's another piece of leadership. Not that Josh wasn't leading, but that's another piece that he picks up and adds to his load.
Josh is so good that you sometimes feel like, not that you underrate him maybe per se, but that you take some of the things he does for granted. Like today, something that stood out also was he had really good pocket movement, with pressure coming from different areas, and he would slide. There was one throw that stood out where he's moving to his left, which is hard for a right-handed quarterback, and then zips it over the middle to Khalil Shakir, who dropped the ball, but it was a fantastic throw, right on the money, hit him in the hands. And I think this goes to show maybe the chemistry also that Josh Allen has developed with some of these receivers. Those receivers includes Keon Coleman, who we heard from today. Coleman, an impressive first 3 days of camp. And something that stood out today was how much he kind of hammered the fact that he's been studying, fitting that we're on a college campus and he's hitting the books pretty hard. He's really been studying, in something that he made sure to emphasize, the playbook, to make sure he's ready when he steps out on the field, that he has that chemistry and knowledge of the playbook down with Josh Allen.
Yeah, his confidence in his press conference today, really, I mean, he just kept saying, he's like, well, at this point for rookies, you're kind of, I don't know if the term is really like shaking in your boots or whatever the saying is, but he pretty much said, nah, I've been studying. He's like, I've been hitting the books, I'm studying. He said, bonding with the team and everything. So his confidence definitely stood out the most, and it's been shown on the field.
He dismissed the notion that he's got like some big transition to make from college football to the NFL. Let's remember, Michigan, Florida State are in his past. Big programs, not a gigantic jump to the NFL, but a jump nonetheless. But to hear him talk about it, he doesn't even want the conversation to start that he's some sort of rookie who's raw and needs to figure things out. I think he is, more than he would say. But yes, Lindsey, he displayed such great self-confidence. And the first answer that he gave about like what his favorite part of training camp has been so far in these few days, catching touchdowns. That's
casual.
And he said it very
More
casually.
of that classic Keon Coleman personality.
Yeah, it is. And also saying that, and again, he appreciates this. I think there's a genuineness to the man, but saying that he was grateful to be a fan favorite. I mean, I love it. I love how he's described himself as grateful to be a fan favorite. He knows he is. People have fallen in love with this guy since April, since that press conference and the coat, the yellow coat and all that. But now what we're seeing, and he said this, doing it on the field, and as he said, also putting on a show.
I think there's a little bit of a mental maturity to Keon as well. It even goes back to when he first kind of blew up onto the stage with the yellow jacket and the cookies and everything, and then sort of realizing that, hey, people are going to remember him in Buffalo. It's going to be for his play on the field. kind of in that same vein, they asked him about moving all around the formation and learning the playbook, and he said, well, yeah, I don't look at, like, there's no X, Y, Z receiver. You know, you're just a wide receiver. You're not an X wide receiver. You're just a receiver. You've got to get open no matter where you are. And I think that speaks to how he views the necessity for him to kind of know this playbook as inside and out as he can, so that way he can take take advantage of his skill set. Because we heard Taron Johnson and someone, I think Curtis Samuel, talked about his 50-50 catch radius. Well, that's something, when you have that skill set, you can put it more to use when you have a broader knowledge of the playbook.
No, I admire the fact that he really broke it down like that. It's not saying that he's not looking at the playbook and the definitions of those roles, because they're in there. Joe Brady's got them in there, and the other receivers. There is an order to that. However, his point is be versatile, do everything, and that's really been his game. And it's interesting that the Bills are putting him in those multiple positions where you're not stuck on one thing. And the other point along with that is how he said, okay, when I go up against a Rasul Douglas, I have a conversation afterward with him about what went right, what went wrong, either success or not, and what went into that on coverage. That is a sense of maturity for a young guy.
And then very quickly, the Bills have an off day on Saturday. They're back at camp on Sunday. Is there anything that you guys are looking forward to seeing from this team when they return from this short one-day break?
I think just kind of want to see how the defense can carry that energy back into, okay, you have the day off, you ended it like that. I think there was a lot of hype. Again, you and John were here on days 1 and 2, and there was a lot of hype around the offense, right? I mean, you're doing some red zone stuff day 1, and everyone's excited about the touchdowns and this and that. But then again, you do have Bobby Babbage on your side if you're a part of the defense, which brings a lot of energy, a lot of juice, and I'm kind of excited to see how that's going to carry over.
Yeah, and that would be like what may happen on Sunday, how that carries over. I'm looking forward to Monday. That's when pads come on. You see it so infrequently, of course, at camp. There's a limited number of days, and there's going to be a limited number of amount of days that they're here. But when they get in those pads for the first day, that's going to tell us a lot about everybody. When that contact ramps up, who sort of fades into the background, who steps up, you're going to get some definitions. And oh, by the way, you'll probably start to see, I say this very carefully and cautiously, that's when injuries start to occur too.
Yeah, and you probably also start to see a little bit of separation in the depth chart, something that even Joe Brady spoke about the day before, especially at wide receiver and running back, that for as much as you can see and analyze what they do in t-shirt and shorts, once those pads come on, it's a different game. You start to be able to sort of tell who's who and who's climbing up the depth chart. Certainly one of the main things we're going to look forward to once the Bills return from this short little break at training camp at St. John Fisher. 3 more down, plenty more to go. The preseason right around the corner in just a couple of weeks as well. For Jonathan Acosta, Lindsey Moppert, Vic Carucci, Channel 2 Sports.